because I can, yes. Welcome everyone to this meeting of Wymondham Town Council. Today is Tuesday, the 1st of April 2025. The time is 7 o'clock, and you can see the agenda there in front of you, hopefully. If we go to item 1, please. Apologies for absence.
Apologies for Councillor Broom, Councillor Rosen and Councillor Witt.
Thank you very much. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Anyone? No? Thank you. Item 3 is to resolve that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 4th of March 2025 are a correct record, and that's paper B. And if you're happy, I'd like a proposer and a seconder, please. Proposing. Councillor Roberts. Councillor Barrett, seconded. All those in favour, please. Thank you. Item 4 is to receive an update about progress of items from the last meeting of the council on the 4th of February 2025 or previous meetings, and this is paper C. So in there we've got to note the notes and to ratify the decisions of the council building, health and safety and personnel working group meeting held on the 10th of March 2025. So if we want to do that one first. So if we're happy with that, proposer and seconder, please. Councillor James proposing. Councillor Nixon seconded. All those in favour, please. Thank you. The next one is to note the notes of the council's allotment working group meeting held on the 12th of March 2025. It's just to note the notes, isn't it? Okay. Are there any comments about these? No? I'll just give a quick update about the Youth Council. The Youth Council actually met here in this chamber on Friday the 21st of March. It was a very positive meeting with good ideas on how to spend the £1,000 we have allocated to them. And they're thinking of some kind of open day event featuring information, for example, on first aid, career advice, environmental issues and safety. They were also joined by Sam Mason, who's from the Youth Advisory Board, and Ramona Ward, who is parish nurse at Wymondham Abbey. And they can both assist the Youth Council in their endeavours. So I'm very encouraged, actually, how that's going. So that's that one. Item 5 is to note the minutes of the Leisure, Environment, Enterprise and Tourism Committee meeting held on the 18th of March 2025 and to ratify the recommendation therein. If we're all happy with that, I'd like a proposer and seconder. Yes. Councillor Barrett.
Can I just say, yeah, really like the proposals that are raised. One point on the Beckettswell project. The funding available from the Nature Conservation Fund, the closing date is the 31st of July. After 2 years of waiting, we finally met Norfolk Wildlife Trust in November, myself and Laura, and they're conducting a survey over spring and summer on Beckettswell, on the nature and biodiversity. So they'll probably report back in the autumn. So the timing's just unfortunate. So I don't know whether you could liaise with Norfolk Wildlife Trust on those projects to, just to be aligned, because as the experts, they may come up with some advice. Thanks.
Okay. So if we're happy with those, again, a proposer and a seconder, please. Councillor Nixon proposing, Councillor Roberts seconding. All those in favour? Thank you. Item 6 is to confirm payment of monthly creditors for March 2025. The email was sent, right. Okay. So if everyone is happy with that? Yep. Proposer and seconder.
Yeah, no,
Right, okay.
I went into email and I found one popped up, but then there was a recall straight away, so it disappeared.
So we might have to defer that one. We can't defer it. Is it possible to get copies done? Okay, we'll come back to that one. Okay. Item 7, public participation. Members of the public may make representations, ask or answer questions and give evidence in respect of the business on the agenda below. In accordance with Standing Order 3F, this item is limited to 15 minutes unless directed by the Chair. Do we have any comments, please? No. Councillor Savage.
Yeah, evening, Chairman. Thank you very much. Probably have a couple of slots because I shall appear, hopefully later, under the reports of County Councillor. I'd like to just address a couple of items that are on the agenda. The devolution to start with, which I noticed that you're actually going to perhaps note, whereas I think the Council should actually discuss and come to an opinion. Because I think with what might be given to Wymondham, with its potential of joining Norwich, Greater Norwich, I think the Town Council's opinion will carry some weight with whatever you decide. There's been a number of options proposed, 1, 2 and 3 unitaries. One unitary obviously being the entire Norfolk County as is, a 2 unitary which is roughly a north-south split, leaving Cromer in the east, I think, and Wells in the west, and going south with Dereham in the west. And a 3 unitary option, which is roughly similar, but a Greater Norwich one, which extends its tentacles into Heatherset, Wymondham, and some of the Broadland parishes. And I strongly suggest that you try and steer away from the 3 unitary option, because it's not going to be good news for the people of Wymondham. So I'll leave you to discuss that particular item. I also note item 14, you're talking about the bus stop. Well, obviously I shan't be here to listen to your discussions, but I shall just make 1 or 2 comments. Now, I know Councillor Barrett has been a member of the Wymondham Realm Working Group, so he will probably be updating you anyway, but I've also got some information which you may or may not have been sent by the County Council regarding the bus stop. In essence, the bus shelter, the gold standard bus shelter that was proposed for the marketplace, can't be put where it was originally intended, and their County Council is looking at options to put the shelter somewhere else, and they're conducting a feasibility study to this end. But the bus shelter that has been obtained, which is actually purchased and in storage, is recommended for location elsewhere, which I think is possibly going to be discussed by the Town Council. That's my indication in my information from the county, and relocated bus shelters elsewhere. So I'd just like to indicate that I'm content with this suggestion from the County Council, with a hope that by the time the Wymondham Public Realm proposal development has concluded, Wymondham ends up with a gold standard bus shelter somewhere within the confines of the town centre. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Savage. If there's nobody else, we'll move on to the next item. Should we go back to this one? Okay. Yeah, sorry, if we go back to the monthly creditors, which was item 6, can I just give everyone a couple of minutes just to have a little look over that, please? Are there any comments? Councillor Frosdick.
Yeah, sorry, I notice on here there is a sum for street lights of, well, in total is £9,000. I think at one point we asked for a review of what street light costs are, because we've got a considerable sum waiting in the wings to pay for street lights, so I don't know if that's in progress.
Is that 312?
Yes, that's
312.
sorry, that's 312.
Yep.
Do you know when we could have a look at that?
Not anytime soon because we've got lots of projects already, so it will be.
Okay.
Any other comments? No? Okay, so can I have a proposer and a seconder, please, for that? Councillor Barrett? Seconder? Councillor Fulcher? All those in favour, please? Yep. Thank you. Okay, item 8 is Rothery Park to receive a verbal update. Right. Green and Wymondham has prepared the flyer to promote the drop-in session on Sunday the 13th of April from 12 till 4 p.m. at Rothbury Community Hall, where residents can see the new design for the park and playground. Green and Wymondham volunteers will deliver the flyers around the Rothbury Park neighbourhood ahead of the event, so you can see it on your desks. The project manager contractor has been appointed as Joe from JDMA, and we'll be able to commence the works on Rothbury Park in May or June this year, weather dependent, in connection with the play equipment contractors starting their work. Okay, that's just to note that. Item 9 is Berwick Recreation Ground update. That's paper E. Now, if you recall from the last meeting, it was about removing the container and cabin that was at Berwick, and that's just to have an update about that, say that that's the price of that. Is there anything else to add? Yeah. Councillor Barrett.
So I do have a concern about there's a freestanding wall next to one of the buildings that's going to be removed, but I spoke to the clerk and been reassured that will be removed as well. Hopefully it needs to be prior to the removal of the buildings.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No. Thank you. Yeah, did you want proposals? Okay. Again, we need a proposer and a seconder, please, for this one. Councillor Roberts proposing, Councillor Dehenny seconding. All those in favour, please. Item 10 is to note that Norfolk and Suffolk have been placed on the Devolution Priority Programme, or the DPP. The consultation closes on the 13th of April 2025. That's paper F. It's that one, yeah? Okay. Now, in light of what Councillor Savage said earlier, I mean, this one is specifically talking about the combined county authority for a mayor for Norfolk and Suffolk. The wider discussion about devolution and what that will look like, I'm not sure if that's what we're going to talk about now.
Well, you need
Do you want to press your mic?
You can make comments of what you think, obviously, of the council, what the council prospects is towards this, like, Councillor Savage was saying. And then we can then, obviously, I can then go back onto the link and put in your thoughts.
I think I'd like to ask Councillor Roberts, as a district councillor, to just explain about the meeting we had recently at district, where they talked about the devolution and what could happen. It's over to you.
Yeah, so there's from a district council point of view, we've favoured the 2 option, which I think has been quite widely published. There was, I believe, a Deloitte sort of thing that was the survey that was brought in by, I think, all the councils and as a whole, which came up with a 3-1, but it wasn't recommending a 3 overall. So I think the 2 is what county district have gone with. County, I will generally say, no surprise, want to go for a 1 only, which from a district point of view, that was going to be a fallback, but that was pulled. So our one go-to on that is the 2 state one. Looking at the 3, my own point is 3s are doable, but not the way that it's put. From like what we're seeing in the press and what we're seeing publicly, Wymondham doesn't want to be part of Norwich. I think that's over the past couple of weeks, that's been quite clear, press and publicly, that Wymondham feels it would become a detrimental element of Norwich, because I think the fact is Norwich would probably want to pull everything into central Norwich. So extremes like Heatherset and Wymondham would be lightly left out and missed on that. That's sort of like, a personal sort of view on that, so don't gather that as your own. But the general thought of district was the 2 was the favourable. Some felt 3 would work, but not in the current suggestion. So it's, in the sense, at the end of the day, we're putting through what we've put through from district. It's not essentially our decision. Central government will look at all the options, and they're the ones who are going to say what's done with what. But I do feel Councillor Savage is right. If the 3 is going to be there, then we need to make our views felt as Wymondham for residents, and from our residents' point of view, how do they feel about that? And I think if we don't have a voice on that, that could be a dangerous thing not to do.
Are there any other comments? Councillor Frosty.
Yeah, I understood and this is from the press, I know, but I understood that it wasn't central government trying to say they want a consensus amongst the councils to say what is the way forward. And the other thing is, my understanding, but this might be wrong, is that all other district councils favour the 3 option other than South Norfolk. And I know the county favours 1 or 2, it says. Am I correct in those assumptions?
Yeah, and that's the danger point, because the government wants to see some consensus. If there isn't, then the government's going to do what they want. Okay, I think that's right with Councillor Savage's vision. So there has to be a consensus. Suffolk's looked at sort of like 3, 4 and 5s. I'm not living in Suffolk, so I'm not going to pass comment on that, but there has to be some form of consensus. County, ironically, they went for the 1, but then you've got other county councils when it came to district then voted differently for a 2. So I think there's a cross line between, most people think a 1/2. 2 is probably the more favoured. I think from Norfolk point of view, 3 is not a favoured. I think a lot of the things where people are saying is like Norwich is almost like, Norfolk will get split into 2 when Norwich will be the jam in the donut. I think that's probably exactly what Norwich want to be, the jam in the donut. But I think, like Councillor Savage saying, their tentacles stretching out doesn't really fit the Norwich demographics. I think that's, if you're looking at a 3, the nuts on that is going to be, where does Norwich's confines be? And I think for consensus as councils, we need to sort of make, not only from us, but Heatherset Parish Council need to make their views known about how we feel about that, because otherwise I think this will be looked at, it's just districts and counties sort of making decisions, whereas us parishes need to sort of look, put our view across as well. I think that would be really important.
I do believe there's a meeting tomorrow at district with some of the councils that you've mentioned. So Heatherset, ourselves are going, I think possibly Cossey, a few other ones like that. We all have a personal view about this, and the devil is in the detail. If there is a 3 unitary, where will the boundary be? I'm pretty sure Wymondham will not want to be part of Norwich. Heatherset would not want to be part of Norwich. If it comes down that the government will make the ultimate decision, we still have to say, but on behalf of our residents, this is what we're advocating. Because, you know, regardless of what goes on elsewhere, we're elected to represent the people in this town. And if most of the people would rather we weren't part of Norwich, who only really want us because of our population to make sure that their unitary reaches it won't reach 500,000, but it's to bump up their figures. So this is a conversation really we should be having. But I think ultimately the decision will be out of our hands. Councillor Nixon.
Yeah, what I was going to say with regards to that is obviously Town Council isn't really going to get much say in what happens. I think we all know the reasons why we don't want to be part of Norwich, because, you know, we don't want money that should be spent on this town and improving this town getting sucked into the city. I think that's pretty much the bottom line that most people feel. I think that the idea of the 3 unitaries isn't a problem if the 3 stays confined, that Norwich City is confined to Norwich City. I think the problem is that what people in London don't understand when they make these decisions is that Norwich is a city, the rest of the county is rural, and the needs of people in the rest of Norfolk differ very much and very vastly from the needs of the people living in a city centre. And I would ask that whoever the people are that are going to make these decisions or push these decisions forward or put across our point of view, whether that's our county councillors or district councillors, I would ask that it is pressed upon those in central government who are ultimately going to make the decision to understand that the city should be unique. The city is a unique part of Norfolk. It's not representative of the vast majority of the county. And if they're going to have a 3 unitary, or however they're going to do it, Norwich needs to be separate. It needs to be its own. Whether the numbers are enough or not, that's irrelevant. The fact is, many people living in rural parts of Norfolk will miss out if they're included or sucked in to a city unitary, and that's what I would ask, that it is pressed upon those decision makers to keep Norwich as Norwich, even if the numbers don't reach the magic figure that somebody in London has got in mind.
Councillor Roberts.
I think the one thing people need to look at, and I'm going to keep it as clean as I can so you can get your own views, you need to look at the maps and look at the tentacles that Norwich are planning and look at the bigger picture. What is Norwich after, and what is everyone else going to lose? So that I would look into that and just look closely at the map. And Councillor Savage will know exactly what I'm on about. But you need to look at that map and look where their lines are and why their lines are planned that way, and then get your own determination from what you see then.
Are there any other comments? Councillor Perry.
Although it's not directly in the review, it's also worth thinking about the powers of town and parish councils, because it's not changed now, but suddenly if we're in a new arrangement and it's not a district council we're working for, whatever that new arrangement is, it might be that we might be asking for extra powers or extra capacity, depending on what that new agreement actually is. We might not be able to carry on in exactly the same way as before.
I totally agree, to be honest, because however many unitary authorities there might be, I think we have to accept that responsibilities for town and parishes will change. And if you consider that we're volunteers, if volunteers are asked to do more work as well as our staff, how is that going to impact? So there's too many ifs and buts at the moment. There's not enough clarity. But it's something that we need to sort of really think about. And as I said before, we represent the people that elected us, and if they're not happy that we might be part of a unitary which is Norwich, then we need to raise our voice and say that. So, yeah. Okay. Any other comments, please? Nope. Okay. So this is just really to note that we've been placed in the devolution priority programme. But here you're talking. As a general, okay. So the consensus I'm feeling is that we're not really happy with a 3. Would we be okay with a 2?
I'm only not happy with a 3 if Norwich is going to start spreading out to other parts of the county. If they can keep Norwich contained to Norwich, then I don't mind there being 3. There could be East Norfolk, West Norfolk and Norwich. That's fine. But I'm not happy with it if it's going to be sucking in all the surrounding towns and parishes into the city.
Councillor Fulcher.
So I'm a little bit confused if we have 2 or 3. The 2 big ones, are they going to be north and south or east and west? Both of those have been suggested. East and west, which could mean that we get split in half almost.
No, I think that the way that they proposed it, but again, I'm not sure if they've changed the map or not, is that Norwich would be included in the east.
Now, Wymondham is just south, could potentially be on the border if it's east-west.
Well, again,
that's not going to be, that could not possibly not be good.
Well, you're either going to be part of the east or you're going to be part of the west. So.
Yes, but we could have a village 1 mile over there that's in the other bit.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
The boundary has to fall somewhere.
Yes, if it's north and south, we're unlikely to be on the boundary. If it's east or west, we're likely to be on the boundary.
Yeah, I don't think that that's an option, unfortunately. Councillor Frosty.
One thing I would say, even if we do go for 2, Norwich is still going to be a big part. Looking at a north-south divide, Norwich is still going to be in there. So is that going to be any different than being in a 3? Because Norwich is still going to be part of the 2 on a north-south divide.
I think ultimately we have to look at the fact that District Council, when they voted for it, it was 38-4, I think, and 1 councillor against for the 2. And of the 7 districts in Norfolk, only South Norfolk have gone for the 2. The others want 3 or a 1 of the county.
Yeah, if we do the east-west split, effectively you'll have one mayor for Norfolk that will be overriding of the 2, but then 2 unitary councils. Effectively, in a way, probably 2 county sort councils or whatever the new sort of council format will be. So if Norwich fell into one side of it, they're not going to have the option of pulling all the resources into Norwich, because you're going to have other bigger cities, you know, or equal sort of places. Things like Yarmouth will come under that area. So you're going to have areas just as big as Norwich within the same area. So Norwich aren't going to have the adaptation then to try and pull all the funds into one area. I think from what Lucy was saying, what Councillor Nixon was saying, if I get it right, was I think 3 is a doable, but not in the published format. So I think we would, myself, I would also agree with a 3, but not in the tentacle element. But I think what we need to perhaps do from a town council is like what district did, give our favoured, but what our fallback is.
Yeah.
So we're saying, you know, we like this, but if that's not going to work, we're happy with that.
I think that might be a good way to go. So we say what the favoured position is and the backstop, which is what district did. So are people generally leaning more towards a 2 or more towards a 3?
Yeah, so 3, but only if Norwich is just Norwich and Norwich isn't sucking in Heatherset, Cossey, Wymondham, Sproulston, Taverham, all these other places. If Norwich is just Norwich City, as Norwich City Council is now, then 3. Because I think the city can't easily be part of other parts of the county, because, like I said, the needs, the population, the whole setup is so completely different that I think the city should be separate and therefore 3. But if they're not prepared to have the city just as the city, then the option of 2.
Councillor Fulcher.
Right, so what I was trying to get to, if we have 2, I'm not sure where Norwich would go. If it went into one side or the other and we happen to be in that side, then I'm sorry, I'm not aware of any other cities in Norfolk. I think that side would be completely dominated by Norwich.
But if you have
We-
a 3, where Norwich is still one of the unitaries, they'll be even more dominant than if they were just part of 2. Do you see what I mean?
No? Well, no, because it wouldn't be if we were in East or West without Norwich, then we wouldn't be in one that had Norwich dominating us, surely. Have I got that? Have I got wrong?
Yeah, I think what Councillor Fulcher's trying to say is whichever, east or west, whichever bit has Norwich in is going to be at a severe disadvantage to the half of the county that doesn't have Norwich in.
If we're East and West, and where we are, we could easily fall into either East or West. We can't say we would definitely be in East or West.
At the end of the day, we've got to come up with
No, we
a
haven't got enough
favoured
information
position.
about what it means.
Sorry?
We haven't got enough information about what it might mean.
And I think that's a general
Simple as that,
consensus
isn't it?
anyway, to be fair. Yeah.
I'll make do with what I can.
It's a discussion that could go on for a long, long time. But anyway, Councillor Fulcher. Sorry, Frosty.
Sorry, yeah, that was the point I was trying to make earlier. Sorry, Julian, but yeah. Isn't it almost irrelevant how many pieces they put together? What we're saying is we don't want to be part of a Greater Norwich, and that's it. If you have 1 council, 2, 5, we just don't want to be part of Norwich. I think that's the consensus. Whether would we say 2 or 3, I think it's pretty irrelevant for us.
Are others happy with
Because
that?
Julian says Norwich will dominate. If Norwich is in your bit, they will dominate it. And if it's within, even if it's Yarmouth or whatever, bless them, Norwich would dominate it. So,
Okay. So you got all that, yeah. Thank you very much. If we move on to item 11, this is reports from county and district. Well, Councillor Savage, do you have anything further to add?
Yeah, thank you again, Chairman. Yeah, my previous comments were pertinent to the previous bit of the agenda. This is County Council report. Not too much to say, actually, but you probably may have heard that Norfolk is set to receive more than 56 million for highways maintenance this year. This will be funding for every local authority across England and can be used for the roads that are most in need of repair for communities across Norfolk. So hopefully Wymondham gets its fair share of that money. And of great importance, it's been in the press today about this week being the week where 7 items of your bills go up considerably. The County Council's budget was raised by 4.99% as a proportion of the overall rates increase. The budget includes an increase of 121 million, which covers 31 million for inflationary pressures, 35 million for legislative pressures, including the national living wage increase and employers' national insurance contribution, 15 million for demand and demographic pressures, and over 25 million for adult and children's social services. While costs have risen by 121 million, funding has only increased by 32 million, so the county has had to find the difference to balance the budget. And only today I have heard that it looks as though the phase 1, which was the mitigation measures for the Western Link, are going to go ahead. So for Wymondham, that means that we should get our 30-mile-an-hour limit on Tuttle's Lane. And hopefully that will happen sometime this year. But it's going to have to be a consultation, the standard consultation. And if there are any objections which are valid, then that might not go ahead. But I would keep my fingers crossed that that is going to happen. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Reports from district, but it's only me and Dave, so over to you, Councillor Roberts.
Not a report really, it's basically sort of airing what Councillor Savage says. A lot of things going up. Just to remind people that South Norfolk does have the Help Hub, so don't suffer in silence, you know, actually sort of like contact the Help Hub. There's a lot of options for support out there as well.
Yep. Lovely. Thank you. Item 12 is reports from representative on outside committees. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Chair. So firstly, Sustainable Wymondham. So unfortunately, Councillor James and Councillor Fulcher have resigned from Sustainable Wymondham, and the group would like to thank them for their invaluable contribution since the group's formation, and they will be missed, so thank you. The draft strategy has been updated and has been submitted to be noted at the next LEAP meeting. The group continue to work towards Great Big Green Week, which I'll remind you is the 7th to the 15th of June, and that's been run in conjunction with Greening Wymondham. On to Greening Wymondham. So work continues at the community orchard at Browick, which is looking fabulous. There's also litter picks continuing and the river testing. And anyone who's walked through Friarscroft Wood will have seen quite a transformation there. And what is fantastic there is Greening Wymondham were leading Duke of Edinburgh volunteers who were then training brownies to plant the hedgerows. So great intergenerational working there, and it is looking really good. And as Councillor Savage said, the public realm meeting, the last meeting we had, consultants were appointed, and we reviewed their initial concept designs for the, I think, 7 areas that were identified within the town centre. The second stage consultation is likely to be in June, which will be in the library, in the market, and hopefully contacting and arranging events through the schools as well to get the younger voice, which seemed to be missing from the survey that went out. There was a long discussion on bus stops as well, and there's lots of work happening behind the scenes from staff at South Norfolk Council on alternatives to the post office and banking hubs, which has obviously been picked up in the press lately. So yeah, I'll update you in the next meeting, but next consultation, hopefully for the public, will be in June. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Frosty.
Yeah, not strictly a representative, but I did attend the Allotment Association AGM, or they invited me as chairman of the Allotment Committee. I gave them as much information that was not confidential, much of which we discussed already in the meeting. I have to say, while there might be disappointment about timings and costs and things, they were pretty positive in that meeting. Well, at least that's the feeling I had in my part of it. And so hopefully, I know Kevin has sent around the same information that I talked about to all allotment holders. And I said that we are still committed to trying to find them an allotment for the future, and we will keep in contact and keep them updated. So I think it was received fairly positively, hopefully.
Lovely, thank you. Anybody else? Councillor James.
Lizard Charity, and we have been successful in a bid for funding from the British Heart Foundation for a defibrillator, and that will be installed on the 14th of April, so that's good news. And we have also commissioned some work to be done on the wood that was rescued from the old tower. When South Norfolk had to take that down, we kept some of the wood, and that has now got a grant that will help us turn it into some benches and other things to be installed. So it's not completely gone forever. It will live on in a new format.
Excellent. Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Perry.
Just to report back from the end of this year's Toad Watch, and to say that people have done the tally, and the volunteers have saved over 1,000 toads in North Wymondham from being killed by cars.
I didn't know there was that many, but excellent, thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, so item 13 is resolution by the Council under the provisions of Section 1 of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960 to exclude press and public from the meeting of Wymondham Town Council in order to discuss matters where publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted. So we need camera switched off. So we need... No, we don't. Proposer and seconder. Proposer. Councillor Roberts. Councillor Fulcher. All those in favour? Yeah. Thank you.